Hi, my name is Joe Bacon and this is my A2 Advanced Portfolio Media Evaluation. For this portfolio I worked in a group to make a short film and my main roles were director of photography, writing the shot list, sound recording and casting through. We all swapped roles and had to go at everything on the different shoots. For my auxiliary tasks I made a poster and double-page spread to promote our group film. The short film entitled No Escape I produced along with my group for my A2 media portfolio was limited to 5 minutes running time and falls under the horror genre. The title my group and I decided on follows horror conventions because it uses features that connote fear and give clues about the narrative. In this case, the idea of the protagonist or the audience being trapped. This is similar to film titles like Donnie Darko and Cabin Fever because these all use two-word titles that show the horror genre and connote something about the plots of the films. The typography style we used for the film and the typography style I used on my poster and double-page spread also follow conventions of the horror genre, as we use creepy font styles that are stereotypical of the genre and unique to our film. One title I got a lot of inspiration from when thinking about the film title was the title used by the film The Woman in Black, what I liked about it was the way it used very graphical water effects on a condensated window background. The text was created and sized to have woman and black appear larger than the rest of the text. Although I have not copied this convention, I did learn from it that our title needed to be unique while still fitting expected horror conventions. Also, in terms of text, our group short film has an end sequence which I created using Adobe Premiere Pro. I did this to follow the convention of other short films that I have watched, such as The Gatherer, No Way Out, and The Last Time I Saw Richard, which all include end credits. My poster also has credits on the bottom, and this follows conventions of posters like Evil Dead, Silence of the Lambs, and Insidious. Because my credits say who the main crew and cast were, the credit the production and distribution companies. The plot of our group film focuses on a psychotic teenager, Franklin, who slowly begins to lose touch with reality, striking out at figments of his imagination, while his friends and family deal with the consequences. This follows the convention of a lot of horror like Hannibal Rising, Shrooms, and The Dark Knight Rises, because the narrative of these films are all also about a central character going mad and becoming the antagonist. The narrative of our film also fits Tordioff's narrative theory because there is a clear equilibrium, disruption, resolution, and new equilibrium. The equilibrium is Franklin's life before getting schizophrenia. The disruption is what happens to him and those around him when the condition worsens. The resolution is Franklin being arrested for Sam's murder, and the new equilibrium is what happens after Franklin is charged. The violence in the plot also follows horror conventions because a lot of horror films like Evil Dead 2 and Resident Evil have violent, gory scenes that result in injury and death. As I have just touched on, our film follows character conventions because of the main character going mad and becoming the antagonist. This is not the only way our characters follow horror film character conventions. It is often the case that horror films have frightened teenagers, rebellious teenagers, drug-taking, monsters, doctors, police, ghosts, and victims in the cast, and our film has all of these. Franklin, the lead character, is afraid of his own visions, and his best friend Sam ends up afraid of Franklin. Franklin and Sam are rebellious teenagers because they break into a disused derelict asylum to make a film. There are ghosts in the film during Franklin's vision. There's drug taking because Franklin is on medication for his schizophrenia. There's a doctor because Franklin keeps hearing his diagnosis at different points in the film. And there are police because ultimately Franklin gets arrested for killing Sam. Having so many characters does break short film conventions slightly, because most short films have 1 to 3 characters. But I think it worked out okay having more on ours, because some were only really extras used to scare the audience. In short, the teenagers in the film fit stereotypical conventions of teenage characters in horrors because they break the audience, because they break the law, breaking into private property. They are violent, which fits in Stanley Hall's 1904 theory about youth behaviour. The mise-en-scene in our film and in my poster and double-page spread fits the conventions of the horror genre perfectly. We thought very carefully about the mise-en-scene and choosing the scene and lighting with the aim of connoting mystery and darkness. Film location is Bodmin Jail, a disused jail which has been left in a dilapidated state as a tourist attraction. The jail location is dark because of its high walls blocking the sun, so it connotes themes of horror and fear. Professional media companies like those who produce Most Haunted have even used this location for its ghostly history and appeal. In our film, the jail is meant to be an abandoned mental asylum. This fits conventions of films like Trauma, Gothica, and Grave Encounters that are set in a mental asylum. For the police interview scene, I researched TV shows such as CSI and True Detective, and found they often use low lighting or very bright lighting with a grey filter for police interviews. I tried both these conventions when editing the scene, but set it on bright lighting with a grey filter because we felt it was better for our film. The other location that worked really well was the cafe. We used the actual cafe. We chose this cafe because it looked dated, connoting the film was set in a rural town. This follows conventions because lots of horror films are meant to be set in rural towns and use shots of places like cafes to set the scene. Our costume and casting choices follow horror conventions as well, because we use unknown teenagers actors in modern clothes, and this is a convention of horror films like The Crazies and The Mist. Our cinematography follows conventions of horror films because we used a range of close-ups, medium shots and medium close-ups of scenes in the jail from different points of view to make the scene more confusion for the audience and include jump shots using CGI. For the fight scenes, I did a lot of research into films and TV shows like True Detective, Dexter and Reservoir Dogs, and much of Quentin Tarantino's work to get inspiration for the shots. Key things I learnt and conventions I followed included using a range of low angle and high angle shots in conjunction with a range of medium shots, close-ups, medium close-ups and over-the-shoulder shots with varying depths of field to make the fight scenes even more dramatic. More camera movement would have made our cinematography fit conventions better, but we decided not to use too much movement as the ground was uneven at the jail, and this made Steadicam and dolly shots a health and safety problem. Our editing follows horror conventions because we worked hard to learn how to adjust brightness and add filter effects in post-production that imitated effects we had seen in films like The Abyss and Cloverfield. Our editing also followed conventions because we use continuity editing, graphic matches, direction matches and eyeline matches as professional horror films use these techniques. Also, we use After Effects to create CGI to scare the audience, which is a convention of most horrors like The Descent, The Ring and 30 Days of Night. When researching film sound, I noticed that media products in the horror genre often use distorted music as a non-diegetic sound to create suspense and add depth to the visuals of the film. The non-diegetic sounds used in our film that impact the film's themes and connotations. For example, I looked at a video on YouTube called "What If Jaws Was a Disney Movie?", where the sound and footage has been edited to make the film completely different. So I followed the conventions of using distorted, strange sounds to make the footage more gripping and exciting, which can be seen in the genre as of late with recent shows like Hannibal and True Detective. We also followed other sound conventions like diegetic dialogue and ambient sounds. My poster follows a lot of conventions of real horror products, but also challenges a few. The main character follows horror poster conventions because it features one of the main characters lying dead on the floor of the asylum, which clearly shows the setting and genre of the film, while revealing part of the plot, but not too much. The image follows conventions in terms of colour because I've used black and white for the main image. These are two colours frequently used in horror to connote good versus evil and ghostly occurrences. But I've kept the murder weapon, the hammer, in colour to show the red blood that covers it. What breaks conventions is that the victim is male, and usually if victims are shown in posters like Blair Witch Project, Silence of the Lambs and Carriers, they are female. Another convention the image follows is having a camera overlaid over the main image to connote the camera will have something to do with the plot, like it does in films like Paranormal Activity and the Blair Witch Project. My movie poster also follows conventions because of the title No Escape. As I discussed earlier, the name of the film and my font choices both follow typical horror conventions. Furthermore, my poster follows conventions because it includes the credits at the bottom in the same position to see them on 99% of professional film posters. My double page spread follows conventions of double page spreads from film magazines in a number of ways as well. I designed my double page spread using an image heavy design that features one main image as a collage of smaller ones. This design follows conventions and liked in Empire magazine, as I felt using an image from the film and images of the production made the page look more appealing to the target audience. My main image follows conventions of double page spreads about horror films because it's a large shot of the lead character Franklin. My double page spread also follows conventions because it's a double page spread that I set up to be the right size initially in Photoshop, then in InDesign. My colour palette follows conventions double page spreads about a horror film because, like on my poster, the main colours I used were black, white and red. The written article itself follows conventions as it details the film plot, discusses the characters, and then makes reference to the director of the short film along with some technical decisions. In my opinion, styled piece is an opinion style piece, and this also makes it keeping conventions of film reviews in magazines like Empire and Total Film. Finally, the layout follows conventions because I follow the convention of text layout around images, which I noticed in review articles I researched. I found having behind the scenes photos showing the cameras filming was conventional of movie review articles, as it draws interest to how the film was produced and creates expectation for a better film. The main header is positioned on the far left in the middle of the page, which sounds unconventional. However, I noticed the style used in Total Film magazine article and found it aesthetic. To spread the article evenly across the two pages, I used text boxes and split the article into opposite sides of the double page spread. Using the size options, I tweaked the width and height of the text boxes to fit them into shapes and borders I had used on the double page spread.